Hello to anyone and everyone. Hello as you're coming into the room. Welcome to our webinar today. It would be great if as you come in you could just say hello so that we know that you can hear us and that you can see the slide pack as well. We have got 15 people registered for today. So let's see how many people rock up. It might be not such a big group today, but I think that's okay because CRM is a bit complicated. So for those of you that are in the room, if you could just give me a quick message, just let me know that you can hear and see the slide pack before we get started. Excellent. Hi, Ingrid. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you here. Well done for turning up. Hi, Mick. Great. Excellent. Hello. That's wonderful. I'm sure more people will probably pop along as we get started, but maybe we'll go through some of the housekeeping and kind of dive straight into it, just so that you know the slide pack. So I'm going to look over here occasionally. It's can you see or hear me? I can't see you or hear you. I can only communicate, Ingrid, via the chat facility. So when you see me looking over here, this is where I've got the chat box over here. And if you've got any questions as we're going through, I would encourage you to be raising your hand, just kind of type in your questions as we're going through, and I'll be keeping an eye on that and answering your questions as we go. Excellent, great. So I guess that's the first part of our little bit of housekeeping. Well, first of all, we're here to talk about CRM, right? So I'll get into exactly what we're going to cover, but you're here because you're really probably exploring or just at the beginning of a CRM. This is not for an advanced CRM thing. It's really what is a CRM and how do I make best use of it and how do I even pick a CRM? That's what we're going to try and get to the heart of today. You are here because of ASBAS. I'm assuming that you are members, that you have already taken advantage of maybe some webinar or online material previously. I'm hoping that you've also taken advantage of the mentoring that's been available through the program. If not, please know that that is something that you should really take advantage of. In terms of me, your presenter today, my name is Kirrily. I have my own business called The Online Fix, and I work with small business owners. I call them DIY marketers. You know, you're trying to work it out for yourself. You can't not market yourself, but you're not quite in that position that you are able to perhaps outsource it completely. Or maybe you really enjoy it. The thing is that I work with a lot of businesses, mostly in that kind of the troubleshooting mode and then moving into optimizing mode. And I've seen a lot of businesses in the last 12 months. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of experience to be able to share with you today in terms of using a CRM. Now, housekeeping. Please, as I mentioned before, please raise questions as we go through. We're a small room today, so that means that, you know, have the floor. Take advantage and make it as much use of this session as you like. The notes or this slide pack is going to be emailed out to you along with the recording afterwards, okay? So if you're kind of scrambling and making lots and lots of notes as you're going through, just know that we're going to be sending these through to you afterwards. And Francisco from Melbourne Innovation Centre, who works in the ASBAS program, he's also online. If for any reason you have any kind of technical issues, just tap into the chat box, I can't hear or I've lost the line or whatever, and he'll jump in and start troubleshooting for us. Okay, and so with no further ado, we will jump into this. I reckon actually, if you wouldn't mind, it would be really good to know what kind of business you're in or what your business is, just so that I can maybe kind of tease out some examples that might be much more specific or relevant to you. So today this is a 101 introduction to CRM, trying to get your head around what is it? Is it something that's going to be a good fit for my business? And really getting your head around the different CRMs there, and then going through a process of how do you consider and pick a CRM and then get the most out of it. So what should you be looking to try and do and achieve with it? Okay, so let's just jump straight into it, and I'm going to trust you guys to raise your hand and kind of, let me know any questions that you might have as we go along. Right, so let's just cover off. I'm assuming And again, if you could both just let me know what your businesses are, that would be fantastic. So what is a CRM? Well, it's a tool to help manage customer relations, right? Hence the name, the CRM, customer relationship management. And the thing is that I think that a CRM means different things to different people. So if you're a salesperson or you've worked in a sales-oriented job in the swimming pool industry, excellent, Mick. I think we're in a good. This is a good place for you. Ingrid, how about you? What's your business? So I do think that a CRM means different things to different people, and that's why I really want to go through how can you apply a CRM, but also just expand perhaps your current definition of it, because CRM is really, like, the area of CRM is really evolving quite quickly, and what used to be quite maybe a narrow set of capabilities is really expanding out. So in fact, it's not just about, say, this set of functionality, it's this and this and this, and how can you bring them together to just kind of, do more and be better at do better for your business, so to speak. Indira Tours, boutique, small group, cultural tours to Italy. Hello. Oh, that's very nice. Just launched a hidden writer workshop in Castlemaine. Writer. Excellent. Very nice. Writer. In June. Gotcha. Okay. Now I've got a feel for that. Okay. So typically, a CRM falls into two categories, okay? And I think that this is probably going to be more related to perhaps you, Ingrid, than you, Mick, but it might be. But what I think a lot of people think of a CRM is typically, particularly if you've got a sales background, you're thinking about prospective customers, right? Finding leads, nurturing them, and then closing the deal. But there's this other aspect that a lot of people don't really think about, which is existing customers, which is managing through to a project. So perhaps this is also another reason you're considering this, Mick, I'm thinking maybe. But also existing customers could be managing projects, but it can also be just about ongoing relationship, because sometimes your business is about repeat sales, or it is about kind of fostering and nurturing a network of people that are going to, be in touch with and refer you on to new customers. So there's lots of a CRM can actually be a real boon to a business if you nail what it is that it does. So typically it's kind of leads and it's talking about pipelines and nurturing customers and contract management and close deals and sales. I think that this is where it gets most of the attention. And in fact, to be honest, I reckon most of the CRMs on the market kind of fit into this front end sales piece, right? But the thing is that the CRMs just come in many different flavors, and they come in different flavors around servicing these two distinct categories. But also there are CRMs that kind of are more skewed towards a particular industry or a particular type of business. And they can be as simple as just a spreadsheet, or they can be a set of with a set of processes and principles behind it, or it can be quite complex with lots of automation and things like that. And the other thing is that quite often it's seen as servicing and doing project management and dealing through a support center or contact center, or it's just that sales pin. But actually, modern day CRMs are now really starting to incorporate more marketing functions in them as well. So you can actually do quite a lot. Typically with a CRM, what we're looking to do is capture your customer or potential customer data and put it to work with workflows, right? So if this happens, then trigger this, and if this happens, trigger that, or remind me to do this to this customer, that type of thing. And as I've said before, it's a huge market with a lot of varying prices. And I think that that's where a lot of us get quite confused, because it's really difficult to compare apples with apples. So I'm going to try and give you a way to, feel your way through that. In terms of the marketplace, you need to select your CRM based on the tasks that best fit your business. Like, what are you trying to achieve and what do you need to be doing? And you need to, when you're going through this process, this is just a bit of a caution for you. I think a lot of people don't actually realize, I kind of find this because I've been working with CRMs at a smaller scale for years, but you kind of see CRMs come into favor and then fall out of favor. And sometimes I actually think it's how hard how hard and fast are they going with their marketing? The thing is that some of these CRMs, you'll kind of go out there. There's lots of material out there written about it, but quite often the reviews and recommendations are coming from a blogger that might be actually, there'll be an affiliate program sitting behind it. So like there's just a little bit of bias in there if they're going to get paid for the fact that you've clicked on that link through to the CRM and signed up. Does that skew the recommendation in the way that they're grading it? So I'm just kind of saying, just be aware of that and make sure you do your due diligence. And as I said, kind of like there's just this kind of, some of these CRM products have huge budgets. So they kind of, just seem like they're all pervasive. They're everywhere simply because they've got the money to be throwing into their marketing. It's not to say that they're not good, but I'm just saying it can kind of also skew your view as to what might be the best fit CRM for you when you're trying to make a choice. The whole point, I'm going to say, what is perfect is that you're thinking about it really holistically. Yes, it is about sales. It's about the marketing, capturing the leads, and then coming through to sales. But retaining them, perhaps that's for cross-selling or to repeat sales or things like that. But it can also be about servicing and brand reputation. So across the entire customer life cycle, rather than just one sliver, which is where I think a lot of CRMs get kind of, they're just focused on sales, or they're just focused on that servicing perspective. But there are now some coming in to kind of crossover. Not a lot, but it's starting to happen. But the whole point of why would you want a CRM? Well, these are the things that kind of I think are most important. One is it's about tracking information across every touch point of the customer journey, right? So it's not just around kind of once you've actually closed the deal, here we go. You want to be able to kind of capture details from a customer, either from a form on your website, maybe through some engagement via a marketing campaign, maybe there's some interactions via customer support. You can actually use these details to start seeing buying patterns. But the thing is you're capturing it all into this one place. And then based on all of that data, you can start designing and responding to these triggers with tailored interactions and follow-ups, right? That's the whole point of it. I've got this kind of handy little chart that I think is quite useful to break it down into that whole idea of how do people use CRMs. So, obviously we've got sales at the top there, which I think is where it's used the most. But this is where sales reps are able to kind of see all of the past interactions in one place. Maybe it's multiple sales or just one, but they're able to then kind of be grading this and moving a lead through a pipeline, right, through to a closed deal, versus support, which is maybe it's contact center, where you've got tickets that you need to be tracking in terms of supporting new customers and onboarding and things like that. Maybe I'm not sure that this kind of fits within in either of your business models, but it could do in terms of, they've purchased, made a purchase. How do you make sure that through the, onboarding and that experience of perhaps installing a new pool or something along those lines, and maybe in the first 6 to 12 months, how do you really make sure that they have a great experience so that they're going to just talk about how great you are, etc., etc. So it's also customer service and in making sure that there's a great experience that is attached to your business or to your brand. Certainly marketers, there is an element of CRM that is about being able to, be far more targeted and specific with your marketing campaigns if you're really integrating or leveraging a CRM to be doing that. And then, of course, it's all about ongoing project and work programs, being able to kind of track projects through, etc., etc. Okay, this is just a list of all the things that you can start to be doing with a CRM. I'm going to get into quite a lot of detail around all of this because this is really about trying to get you to think around, if I'm going to do a CRM, how do I get the most out of it? And I have to tell you, a CRM, I reckon, is quite often underutilized just simply because it is so complex and there's so much there that you could be doing. Certainly it is, as I've said, it's about lead capture, having a calendar or reminder system with follow-ups, email marketing, right, and following up, internal chat integration. So perhaps it's actually capturing or having a chat facility on your website. I'm going to say both of you, perhaps potentially, you kind of whether it's travel or a pool, kind of would make a lot of sense to have, maybe a chat facility to start a little dialogue on the website when people have questions. But that can be integrated directly into CRM. That then becomes a lead that is qualified. You know, maybe there's some follow-up marketing automation that goes out as part of those initial interactions based on whatever their inquiry was. Task management. Maybe this isn't relevant to either of you, but territory management, if you're kind of working in a team of people, certainly workflows, segmentation, pipeline management, all of these kind of come together in terms of things that you want to do on a routine basis, and you want to be really slick and quick and efficient with how you're doing it. And then certainly just reporting and being able to even in some systems manage invoicing and quoting and things like that as part of what it is that you are doing. Okay, so many benefits. I think everyone will have a different set of benefits, but these are the things that I think are probably high level fit for everybody. The CRM is really about consistency in the way that you are interacting with people with contact and follow up, but also your communication. So there's a degree of repeatability around what it is that you're doing. You're not having to kind of make it up every single time someone comes through the door, something that's tailored and different. There's a real like, okay, so we've got this trip coming up, or we've got this kind of writing group workshop coming up. Like, it's the same information that you can kind of be putting out to the same people. You don't necessarily need to be reinventing or writing bespoke comms every single time. Having said that, I think that that's one of the benefits of a CRM. You can kind of benefit from templated communications, but be tailoring everyone that goes out, just kind of, you know, drawing upon something that you already trust is written quite well and just modify it slightly based on perhaps a conversation you've had. I think that you probably would understand that, Mick. You know, you're kind of quoting, it's kind of more or less the same stuff that you're talking to with someone when you're talking about a new pool, but every time there might be a different set of questions or a different concern or something unique about the site that you can just insert a little bit of tailored information relating to it, depending on how you use a CRM. But certainly that's how I use a CRM. Certainly, I think it's about being able to do more through automation and more through templates. And so therefore, that means it should be saving your time. And as you're doing all of that, capturing that data to learn about your customers, like what works well, what doesn't. Like, there's some CRMs, they're just excellent for being able to say, right, I've sent that email to this person. Oh, they opened it. That's excellent. But I haven't heard back from them. You know, so real signals that are much more specific in a CRM environment than, say, just in a straight email or out of your outbox, like if you're using Gmail or Outlook. And certainly status reporting is something that you could be having a look at. Right. So from a small business perspective, what do I think? Like, I reckon that there's two types of businesses that a CRM really kind of fits. It's just a really good fit. And those are B2B companies, which are typically tracking leads and customers along across a really long sales cycle or through upgrade paths. So you find software companies and recruiting firms and things like that will use CRMs quite a lot. But those businesses that have more of a considered purchase, like a jeweler, a landscaping or architect, or selling pools, right? Someone just doesn't see an ad and then clicks and purchases a pool. It's a longer consideration journey, and so there's going to be much more contact between a person first being interested in inquiring right through to actually closing the deal and delivering. Okay, so like, I reckon both of you potentially could be, you know, there may be a really great outcome in terms of leveraging a CRM to its fullest capacity. Certainly with businesses that I've worked with, like, you know, I see I see people using them in lots of different ways, and not always to the best of, but, you know, I see people just use it to have all of their data in one place so that they're not having to trawl through their inbox to try and find, you know, 5 different emails, which email of the 5 emails that they sent, like, it's all in one place. Certainly, I reckon the other thing that I think that a CRM is really good for is once you've like connecting to your marketing channels, which is where you're generating initial awareness and leads coming into, oh, let's qualify now, let's actually start having a conversation. I think CRMs are really good for that. And there's a real ability here to test, learn and iterate because you're getting so much data as part of it. So it really should be about growth, right? That's definitely Italian. Yeah, right. Okay, so you really do want to like Ingrid, I'm going to say your sales cycle is really personal, right? You really need to get in front of someone and start building a relationship before they commit that kind of money to you. Okay, so so just by the way, have either of you got a CRM in play already, or actually using one already, or you're just at the beginning of your journey here and trying to work out how to do things differently? It'd be good to know that. I should have asked that up front. Anyway, questions to help you determine if a CRM is a good benefit to you. I kind of have really gone through these, but I thought it would be good to include it in the slide pack so that you can kind of reflect on these afterwards. But do you have a need to maintain that central list? I think all of us do, but do you? You know, are customers regularly interacting with multiple people in your team? Maybe, maybe not. Do you need a better way to understand the sales process? Right? Do you have a long lead and nurture process? I think we're going check yes. And do you have a need to manage customers ongoing and want it all in one place? Okay, so yeah, it's how to link marketing channels. Okay, I'm going to get to that. So so Mick, when you Tall Emu, just started looking at it. Yeah, okay, because it does get, I haven't actually used Tall Emu, so I'd be interested in seeing what your insights are. I have actually got a series of examples of CRMs to walk through and just give you a taste of the flavors coming up. I really want someone to help me set it up. Yeah, I reckon that CRMs are just one of the biggest time-wasting tools if you haven't got a really clear plan in terms of how to get it up and running for yourself. Like, I just know, even from myself. So Mick, yes, I'm going to answer that question around connecting to marketing channels. But the thing is I can't give you this is how you do it, because each CRM is different, and that's actually part of the selection criteria. But I've got some tools to really help you work out what do you need, and then identify like what tools might you need. But typically, as a kind of a broad sweep answer to your how do I connect to your marketing channels, either the CRM has onboard integration built into it. So for example, the CRM will automatically, as part of the plan, integrate with MailChimp, for example. Or it might not have that out of the box, but it allows you to integrate via something like Zapier. Have either of you heard of Zapier before? I'll just put Zapier. Zapier.com is a connector. So it actually, I think they call them recipes, or maybe that's another tool, but it allows you to take one, like let's just say you've got a website and you've got a form on, you've got a spreadsheet on Google Drive. You can actually use Zapier to connect the two, for example, and likewise with from your CRM. Okay, and you can, okay, just making sure I've crossed everything off. Right. So the other things to be thinking about: who are going to use the CRM tools. Is it just you versus a whole team of people? And how much complexity do you need? So generally speaking, we say start out simple before jumping straight in, because you can literally just lose months trying to work it out and then get it set up. And then be sure and clear of what your marketing channels are, because depending on the CRM that you select, those marketing channels might have a stronger connectivity to them or not, for example. And will your CRM scale as you grow, right? Because what looks like a really great CRM when you're this size, and maybe even it offers a free plan or a really base plan, as soon as you start to get up and start to grow and using it more, the pricing just goes through the roof. Right. So here we come to CRM costings are really vexing. I find them really vexing because it's really difficult to compare apples with apples. Hopefully I've got a bit of a tool that will help you to work that out. But they all charge differently. So many of them charge on a per user fee. So if you've got multiple team members, or you think that's going to be something in the future, maybe that's a consideration. And some charge based on the additional data or records or functionality. So being really clear on what you think you're going to be using for actually helps you just make sure that you're selecting the right CRM up front. Because switching from CRMs, just take it from someone who's been there, done it, switching between CRMs is a nightmare. Right? Like, it's not an easy thing to do. Oh, and as I've said, so others charge based on functionality. So I know that I've seen it be a $50 user per month for a contact, but then you might have to pay an additional $50 per month for, another version of it, which includes lead scoring or reporting or something like that. None of it is equal and kind of straightforward. Zapier, it's one, Ingrid, it's 1p. Sorry, I thought I put it into the comment. I just put it into the comment piece. There you go, Zapier, Zapier.com. Right, so there is no one size fits all. So I want to give you some flavors of CRM based on all of the things, sales and this and that, because I'm kind of building CRM to be this, magnificent tool that's going to solve all of these problems. The problem is it never is that simple, right? It has this capability to do it, but there's always these buts. But it kind of does this but not quite right, or it does that and it doesn't quite do it that way. So I want to try and help you avoid these pitfalls, but actually see also a couple of different tools based on pros and cons with them. So first of all, so it could be that for both of you, maybe you're doing this right now, but a spreadsheet when you're first getting started as a business can actually be a really effective CRM, right? If it's really just about having all of your customer details in one place, your ability to segment it because you're being able to put tags and, filter things based on, how you've tagged or categorized them. You can set it up in terms of pipelines and moving it around. Yeah, it's manual. Yeah, it's a bit messy. But in terms of really getting started and not having to commit overly, investing in the way that hours, I'm talking hours and hours and hours in setting up a full-blown CRM while you're just getting to know what it is that you need. Perhaps a CRM is actually all that you need to start with. Certainly, it's low cost. It's a really simple way to get started, and it's quick. I should have put in simple and it's quick, but it's actually a great way to work out what you need from a CRM. And you can do, like just using Google Forms, for example, and their spreadsheets, right? You have a form, it goes into a spreadsheet, then using something like Zapier, you can be then kind of passing it across to maybe MailChimp or one of those email platforms, right? So you can actually kind of, if you get clever, do quite a bit with spreadsheets when you're just kind of starting to think about how do I do this better. On the flip side, you do need to be proficient with spreadsheets, and there is limited functionality. Like, as soon as you start to scale and get, quite a few records in it, it can become a bit unwieldy. And if you have a number of staff, it can also be really problematic, version control and things like that, particularly if you're not keeping it on a cloud-based server. The other thing is that, it's getting started. What it's good for is getting started and keeping costs down until you start to generate your leads. And it probably is best suited to that low volume in terms of data capture, etc. You don't want to be dealing with high volumes in a spreadsheet. Okay, so it sounds like, Ingrid, you've been doing a little bit of this to start with, but actually a lot of the email programs now position themselves as a CRM, and they do a lot of things. In fact, they do some things much better than a lot of the CRMs do. Certainly an email platform is primarily about broadcasting one-to-many, right? Like you're going out to, a long list of people, rather than a CRM really is about one-on-one communications. But it can be a place where it's used as a central hub for customer data. Like I actually do this for one of my clients. It's not ideal, but they don't have big volumes, and we just don't have a real need to kind of yet graduate to a CRM. But we have MailChimp to kind of do a lot of the broadcasting, but then we have a spreadsheet that is actually regularly aligned with and extracted from MailChimp, right? MailChimp is not my favorite of the email programs out there. It's put its prices up recently. You get less value out of it, all those types of things. However, you can do automation, you can do segmentation, you can do personalized campaigns, as in, the name. You can get really clever pants with MailChimp and with ActiveCampaign and SendPulse. I've included 2 other email programs there. All of them do automation and flows, right? So if this person does this, then send them that. If they respond to that, do that. So you can actually get some pretty slick stuff so that it appears that it's much more personalized than perhaps you might think. So it's kind of like on the way to a CRM, but not quite there. The only thing I'm going to say about this is it used to be that I would have been, and I'm going to say as recent as 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I would have said, yeah, sometimes you better stick within that email environment and just kind of, be on one of the paid plans for the automation and sequencing and things like that. But actually, they have become, like MailChimp in particular, I'm so dark on them. They've put their pricing up, whereby actually I actually think I get far better value out of some of the CRMs to do similar functionality to what they're doing over there. So, like it's just, this is why you really need to go through a process of really understanding what do you need a CRM for and how do you get the most out of it. And this is, and get down to a point where you're comparing apples for apples. Lucky for you, I've got something that I hope is going to, help you do that and make it really easy. Okay, so you can use email as pros and cons. Okay, you're already maybe familiar with it. Generally, it's pretty low complexity to get started, although it can get pretty complex as well. And there are generally lots of integration options available, like, you're capturing maybe data over in an app on your website or something and easily integrate into MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, whatever, and any other tool that you might have going on. On the flip side, there is no ability to see all of the touch points and histories for all of those communications. You're generally probably going to end up with an inbox over here that has some of those more personal responses. So if you were looking for that, one customer view, you're not going to get that out of these platforms. Although ActiveCampaign does now have a CRM, although it's not as full-blown as some of the others. And there is limited personalization, right? Like it's not a one-to-one channel, it's a one-to-many. And the cost, I reckon, isn't always comparative to. So that's why I reckon it's be really clear on what you need it for and then pick the product based on that. What else? So examples. So things that you might just think, actually this is why email is going to be a better fit than a CRM. If you've got online sales, and I don't think that this probably fits for either of you, but this actually does happen a lot. Like you've got you're selling products online or online learning things, right? So you've made a sale online, you automatically integrate into your email program and it triggers an automation to go out, and so you start to kind of communicate and welcome on board and all of those types of things, but you're doing it at scale, right? Because you might be selling widgets and you're selling 10 widgets a day. You don't want to be kind of, that's not necessarily maybe the best use of a CRM from those perspectives. Certainly things that a lot of people use that are kind of heading into that CRM territory are abandoned cart sequences, appointment and event registration sequences, future segmentation and follow-up based on an engagement with content. I think that works really well when you're running campaigns, but on a routine basis, like, it's just what I call you've got much more of an evergreen approach to your marketing, then that can also become a little bit unwieldy. Okay, next one, HubSpot. Who has actually signed up and got a free account with HubSpot or has been using it? Either one of you considered it? It's actually a really good system. I like HubSpot, but there's a huge but coming, okay? The kind of business that HubSpot really suits is B2B or high consideration sales. So keeping all your contacts in place, the need to book meetings and chat online, it actually does a lot of things really well and easily. It's really great for integrating all of your information into one place. I actually have a client who uses HubSpot for that one reason. She just wants all of her, so she has a high-end service type thing, kind of, I'm going to say getting into that pool area. She doesn't do pools, but she just uses the free version for contact management and having all of her client conversations in one place. And she finds that really good, but she doesn't do anything. She doesn't do anything further than that with it. But you can have a contact, like a website form that captures information into the database. You can have documents and templates. You can even have chat facility integrated into it. There's emails and quotes that you can also be doing. It does rely on, so these things like quotes and quoting, it relies on you integrating with another system that you might be doing. So that's another thing. That's why I'm kind of, when you come to start doing it, that what does it integrate, or where do you need to supplement its capabilities with an integration? Does that add to the cost, right? The CRM may actually only be quite reasonably priced, but you still got to pay another $20 a month or something for a quoting system, or for this or for that, or for a contract management system. So you need to kind of be really clear on that upfront, because you just get caught and suddenly, your tech stack just adds up and is far more expensive than perhaps you would like. Pros and cons, because I actually really do love HubSpot, right? But there's this huge but. It's free and you get lots of help. And there's even a startup discount of almost up to 90% if you're a startup, but you have to fit into certain criteria, and it allows you to kind of develop out a whole lot of templates. So if you're kind of being quite narrow in how you're going to use it, and for some people that's enough of that's all they need, that's the benefits that they're really looking for, it works really well for that. However, on the flip side, daunting list of features is kind of like a really positive, it's actually really positive thing. But the thing is as soon as you start wanting to actually get into doing anything more than the things that I've already highlighted, it's going to cost a heap. The costs on HubSpot tally up really quickly. And marketing automation, and I think that this is one of the things that it's one of the reasons why I think a CRM should be used, is that you're able to trigger automated sequences and actions. So you have to be on one of the higher level plans to start to get that kind of sequencing and triggering, and you can only have one pipeline. So maybe that's okay for both of you. You've only got one product that you're selling, but maybe if you've got multiple, you might have a few different sales things that you want to do, then it becomes expensive, right? So pricing free, but this is where this is why I want you to just take a moment and really consider. You can suddenly start to find, oh my God, I've spent all this time thinking this is going to be a perfect solution, and then suddenly look at this. This is on the marketing part side of things. Look at this. In order to get full-blown marketing automation with what you want to do, you're already up to over $1,000 a month, right? The pricing goes up really quickly. And this is on the Sales Hub things. If you want to do sequences and have multiple pipelines, much more reasonable at $68 per month. But to get into sequences and multiple pipelines, you need to be up to over $600 a month. Thing is, I know that you can get all of the things that it's offering here at a much less price at one with other CRMs. And that's why I'm just saying HubSpot is a little bit of a black hole. You kind of think it's, you think it's Nirvana, you think it's everything that you need. And then as soon as you're starting to want to kind of go beyond those initial parameters, it's like, holy cow, this just, this isn't going to work for me. Anyway, but maybe those pricings don't deter you. What does one pipeline refer to? So, for example, one pipeline for you, Ingrid, might be actually your Italy getaway, right? Your tour to Italy. But you also are selling the writers' retreats. So that could be a second pipeline. The way that you sell and all of the templates and the triggers and the automations and sequences that you might run for your tour to Italy is actually going to be different to how you would run the weekend writing retreat, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that kind of gives you a bit of a feel for it. And I'm going to say that, Mick, for you, it might be that it's a different set of, I don't know, maybe it's a different pipeline for someone who's interested in a pool, like an in-ground pool, and is interested in a spa. I don't know, different set of questions, maybe not, maybe one pipeline is going to be enough. But does that make sense? It just means that the pipeline is really tailored to, it's usually tailored to a product or a group of products or services. but not always. Have multiple tour offerings under gyros, or potentially several local offerings under another ABN. So, well, that's kind of maybe answering my question. It's just that I find that there are very few businesses that really only have one thing to sell. Usually there's kind of a couple of variations, or it does happen anyway. My whole point with HubSpot is it seems like it's just the perfect CRM for free, but you do need to really consider whether or not those two things, the automations and pipelines, are where it really starts to kind of be very hindering. But for some businesses, it really does work. Anyway, Tave, I've got to keep an eye on time. Tave is another CRM. It's not very well known, but actually it's used a lot in the eventing industry. So anyone that's running weddings, like, venues, celebrants, wedding event planners, event managers, photographers, this is the reason. What distinguishes this one is that you're running to a date, right? So a lead comes in and they've said that their event is going to be on this, and then everything works up backwards from that date, and then there's a whole lot of, you can sequence after the event as well. So it's really perfectly designed for those types of businesses, and it's a really nifty little platform, right? It's not a high-end price point, and you can do an awful lot in Tave that you just can't. You get so much more out of it than, say, you would with HubSpot. Thing is, you can do lead captures. You can actually have a form on a website that comes directly into your database that then kind of sets it up as a lead, and then that goes into whatever pipeline you've nominated. But that can trigger stuff, right? Workflows, send this email, do this. You can have audit quotations set up, and really clever with the way that you can do quotations, in that you can have like options within, like, do you want this one or you want this one, and do you want this upgrade? So I'm just saying, Mick, from a pool perspective, I'm kind of thinking you've got a base model, but what might be the next level and next level and next level? And then from the quotation come contracts and invoicing. Like, it can actually be an all-in-one system, right? And it integrates really well with Gmail and your calendar system for Gmail, and it allows you to do lots of templates. I've actually used Tave, and in fact, I primarily use Tave for my own business. It's not perfect. It is not perfect. So I'm still on the lookout for the best platform for me. But the reason I really like it is quotations, and it allows me to use templates, but everything gets kind of, I can have everything come in as a draft and then slightly tailor it and personalize it, and then have it go out. So no one is getting a one-size-fits email or communication from me, right? So I'm just kind of saying, from those perspectives, it kind of works really well. And the pros are that the base price gives you a lot of functionality, and it has Gmail integration, which is really easy and quick to set up. However, on the con side of things, so this is where I don't like it, there is no integration with Outlook, right? I use Outlook, so that's a real problem for me. So that means I also can't integrate my calendar, so I've got to have a separate system for clients booking into my calendar. Do you see what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like, oh, it's so close, and it's so almost perfect, but not quite perfect. And it can be quite complex to get set up. Look at the pricing on this. So, but you get an awful lot with Tave, but you can see it's quite different to, say, HubSpot, right, and what they're offering. For $21 a month, that is US dollars, by the way, you actually get all of that, right? It kind of doesn't have that kind of step up. It's only really when you've got multiple users that you're wanting to do more. You can get an awful lot out of this system. Not perfect, though. Thing is that I think where this system really falls down is it has limited integration with other tools at the moment, and there's no Outlook integration. So if that is the platform that you're on, it can be a bit of an Achilles heel for you. Right, the next one that I've chosen to pull out, has anyone heard of Pipeline? It's just, they are going gangbusters at the moment for marketing themselves. Invoice and send receipts to participants, at least 3 by participant for each. So you can do all of that, Ingrid. Like, you could, I'm going to say Tave is probably for your type of business, because you're working to dates. I actually think probably it would give you a lot of cost savings, time savings, in the way that you can actually have payment plans in the way that you send out those invoices and things like that. Tave does all of that. Not that I'm making a recommendation, but I'm just saying it does actually do quite a lot of the things that you would want it to do from that perspective. Right, pipeline. Right, I'm kind of really like pipeline as well. They're doing a lot of advertising at the moment. I think that it's probably best positioned for the traditional sales role tracking. And it's really set up for that. However, people do use it for post sales, right? So like this is one of the things that I'm not quite ready to kind of give over on Pipedrive, is that, you know, you can do it, but you have to fiddle with it. Thing is you onboard a client, but then you want to deliver and have ongoing interactions with them as part of that sale that you've just made. So how do you kind of then set that up? You have to set them up as another pipeline, or in the way that you kind of would then manage it. So you just have to think a little bit harder about how you can do it. Completely doable, but it's not out of the box like that. Anyway, I think it's a really good fit for B2B businesses that have got complex decision making as part of it. And it's actually a really good fit for people that are like freelancers and sole traders that are looking to do that kind of onboarding on and post afterwards. So much more of additional. It's not kind of to that date point. I really like Pipedrive. It is so easy to set it up. It's ridiculous. It's really good for tracking leads and deals. Actually, incredibly easy to do forms and leads. I've put asterisks there because there's always a but, right? So you can do that. Really good workflows, automations, and super easy integration with Outlook and Gmail and templates, right? So I really like this part of it because that means that I wouldn't have to have another, be paying for another service around my calendar, and people being able to book in. It could be part of this, right? It's never that easy. This is where it all falls over in their pricing structure. So it's super, super easy to set up, and just, you know, it's got a 14-day free trial. It's worth actually having a bit of a look-see and seeing how you kind of get your head around it. Integration is super easy, very easy to extract data as well. This is actually a very important point when you start to play around with the CRMs. If at any point you decide to commit to one, just make sure you can extract your data, because some of them don't allow you to do it, which means that you're kind of stuck. You've spent all of this time setting yourself up and you've got data in there, but you can't easily extract it. That's also one of the things that you really need to pay attention to with a CRM. I think one of the ones that I quite like but doesn't allow this, which is kind of a big no-no for me, is Zoho. I've got a list of additional CRMs to be considering, but that's one of the downfalls of that one. Cons, what don't we like about Pipedrive? Well, the web forms, so being able to just have someone interested in getting this lead magnet or making an inquiry, the web form comes at an additional cost. And I think it's kind of, it's too much. It's kind of making it less competitive to its peers. And so, but it's got so much else going for it. And the automation that you want to kind of have, you kind of have multiple automation, you need to be on the mid-tier plan. There's no free forever to get started. Actually, that's the same with Tave. And it's not immediately suited to ongoing client management, but you can. But this is the pricing, right? It's actually really reasonable, right? Very reasonable pricing. This is the sticker. See this? Up the top, lead booster add-on, right? If you want to have a web form or a live chat or chat box or something like that, that's capturing that data, it's an additional $32 a month. Like, that's not an insignificant amount in my mind to be able to just have a web form on my website. And the reason that I think that that's really important is I've tried to work around using Zapier from Pipedrive from my website with the form that I've got, like with different lead magnets, that I want to trigger a different sequence as people come into my CRM, right? But using Zapier, it's kind of not really straightforward, and it's not really, you have to kind of really fiddle with it, and it takes a lot of time to work out how to do it, because you've got to kind of work out how to do it from your perspective, because it's not straight up. Whereas if you can just have a web form, it's like that. It's really quick and easy. Having said, you know, like, it could be that pricing, you still get a whole heap more than you do from HubSpot, for example, which is supposedly the best of the CRMs out there. But it's still kind of quite a jump up in order to get that functionality. Anywho, so consider carefully integrations with other tools. So quite often, the other things that I don't like with Pipedrive, but it's not a a deal breaker. It doesn't do quoting, and I really like that about Katave, for example. But you can easily integrate with another system that does the quoting for you. So it could be that it's a Word document on G Drive, or it could be another tool that actually is expert at doing quotes and contracts and things like that. So maybe that is enough for you, you know, between Zapier with your web form and getting the data in. You know, I'm going to say, I'm kind of probably speaking more to you, Mick, but it could be that Pipedrive is actually a really good solution, in so much as, you know, people are coming in, you're getting them to nominate what it is that they're interested in, and away you go. And you don't have to get too much more complex than that. Depends on what it is that you're after. But it does rely on those integrations with other tools for extended capability. And, you know, you need to kind of really be clear on and test that capturing of leads, because that's where I found it generally catches me out when I'm trying to do this. And it's, you know, maybe it's just because I'm trying to overcomplicate it or oversimplify it, or I don't know, but sometimes it works. Sometimes it just comes together perfectly and sometimes it doesn't. Right. Now, you probably have also both seen Salesforce, like Salesforce is probably the largest CRM in the world. And that's why I don't think it's suited to either one of you, right? It's high-end, usually it's high-end enterprise level software for big companies. That's where I've seen it most at work. Thing is that they're pitching themselves at a lower end market now. So you can actually get a fairly reasonable price, I think about $35 a month to get started on it. But again, it's kind of similar to HubSpot. You don't get a lot for the lower end plans. And then, you know, you kind of, the jumping of the pricing starts to get a bit crazy in my mind. Anyway, it's really good for contract and tendering. That's what it's used a lot for. So it's really convenient with these integrations, very scalable, very customizable, and it does the complete customer cycle. So, you know, from marketing right through to project management, everything. It can deal with everything. However, it is very complex. It's challenging to learn on. It's kind of like you want to graduate to Salesforce when you're a really mature business with lots of business to be supporting that investment in it, because the setup is complicated and it's very pricey to start to get to some of those more complex features that we've been talking about. So, you know, and it's time consuming, and it's generally suited to a much larger organization as a starting point. But it's good for all of these things that we've talked about, you know, for the other CRMs. It does all of these really well as well. But this is where I want you to just consider Salesforce very carefully, which is it can be very expensive to opt in and get the automation piece of it, and it's an extremely steep learning curve to go on. You know, pulling hair out kind of learning curve if you were to give it a bit of a trial. But you can see, you know, entry point is not bad. That's US, so I think that would be about 35 Australian. But you can see you don't get a lot for you, $25, compared to those other systems that I've just shown you. And that's why it's just like, yeah, this is the best of them. This and HubSpot are the most popular, but really they charge through the nose to get to those next level capabilities. And there are other tools out there that do it really well, just as well. Okay, your language is a bit advanced for me. Oh, Ingrid, what haven't you understood? What's a web form? A web form. Okay, let me just, sorry, I should have been watching for this. So Ingrid, number one, MacBook. Yes, you do need to pay attention to whether or not you can do integration. It could be that some of these CRMs won't do integration with your platform that you're on. Although some people do use Outlook on their Mac, but you know, again, that could be a bit of a problem. I'm sorry I didn't look sooner. You've kind of been patiently putting your questions in. A web form is literally when you have a website, right? Someone wants to put an inquiry or contact you. It's like, you know, you just type in their name and their email, and then that sends the data somewhere. It either gets emailed to you or it will automatically goes into your CRM or to your email. So you might have a newsletter or an email capture form, that's a web form on your website for newsletters, and that goes straight into MailChimp, for example. That's what a web form is. But not understanding why I haven't been able to effectively engaging with my cousins. Okay, so Ingrid, is it that is the question here, is this, sorry, assumes that I'm already trying to do all of these things but not understanding it is why I haven't been effective. Sorry, I'm trying to understand the question here. It's a bit difficult to decipher between offerings because I don't understand the functions you're referring to. Okay, is there anything, oh gosh, how to go back through this. So lead capture is literally someone coming in from your website, for example, or someone phoning up saying, I'm interested in one of your tours. So that's capturing that person into the database or into the CRM, right? So that you can then respond to them saying, so glad that you're interested in my tour. Have a look at our brochure. I'll follow up with you in a few days to see if you've got any questions, that type of thing. That's someone, a lead is someone who's interested in what you're doing. The form is just a form on your website is where people might actually enter some information saying, hey, I'm interested in this. Workflows are where you might say, when someone enters this form, put them into this sequence or this pipeline for my tour to Tuscany in December next year, and do step 1, step 2, step 3. Workflows allow you to like kind of nominate, I want you to do this, and then this, and this. The CRM helps you do those types of things. And automations are where things just happen automatically, right? You can kind of trigger, if they respond to this, or if they say yes to this, send them this, for example. Quotations, I think you're probably, I think we have lost Mike. That's a shame, isn't it? We have lost Mike. We'll keep going, but Ingrid, just let me know. It's a shame that I can't hear you talk because you ask me these questions, what you don't understand. Do you understand contracting, invoicing, integration with Gmail and calendar? That's about being able to bring all of the emails that you are receiving into the CRM so you don't have to be working from 2 different places. Does that make sense? And might be useful if you help me choose the best option. We're going to get to that, Ingrid. We are going to get to how to choose the best option for you. You should speak directly to my business. Okay. So Salesforce is not for you. Let's just say that. Okay. This is how to make a choice. Funny you should say this, but I've actually got I'm going to send this. This is going to be sent out to you at the end. I've actually got a really detailed list for you to work through to help you work through which is going to be the best CRM for you, or for your business. And I'm going to say that there's probably a couple there that might be good fits for you. But certainly I'm going to say, Ingrid, because perhaps I'm getting the sense that you're not very familiar with CRM, and I'm not quite sure where you grade yourself in terms of marketing and these things, but complexity, I'm going to say simple is going to be better for you to start with, right? And so I think you get the gist here. You don't want to be spending days and days and days to set this up in order to get use out of it. You need to kind of have one that's relatively simple and straightforward. And then you want to be able to kind of make sure that you're paying attention to, as this starts to get traction, that as it scales, it doesn't cost you a lot of money and cost you to add benefits as you go along as well. So make sure that it's kind of fit for purpose, so to speak. I'm going to just quickly go through these things. Can you just flag with me, given that there is no one else, can you just flag with me when you don't understand any of these? Ingrid, I can't just speak specifically to your business solely because this is being recorded for people that have registered for the playback. So it's not just live, but people will also get it. So I need to still work through this, but hopefully we'll be able to do this as a way to, how does this work for your businesses and for other businesses, if that makes sense. Okay, great. So contact management. So this is one of these things where I actually think that this is going to be important for you. when I talk about 360-degree customer profile, what we're talking about there is being able to have a complete view of all your interactions with your customer. But some CRMs actually draw in information from other channels. So, for example, if you're doing, a customer support CRM may actually bring in social media comments and things like that, particularly where they've tagged a company. And that's what we mean by 360, but it's all of the interactions in one place. But it might be that you just choose to have your emails and interactions in one place rather than having to trawl through your inbox. Again, I'm going to say one of the things for you, I think, Ingrid, that you do need to really pay attention to is like how many customers across the course of a year would you have? Like, and if you're not dealing with hundreds and hundreds, or maybe you are, if thousands and thousands, you need to kind of make sure that you're not over engineering this. You don't want to overcomplicate something when something a bit smaller might be best use for you. Okay, so that's contact management, really understanding, is it just that you want to have all of the communication in one place, or do you need it to go and do more things? Like there's a CRM called Nimble that goes out and grabs customer profiles based on their email address or their name, etc. What else? Deals and deal stages and pipelines. So this is what we were talking about before. So someone who is interested in one of your tours to Italy, right? So maybe you've got two different types of tours. So that means that you've got two pipelines, for example. Or it could be that it's the same tour but with different dates. So you've just kind of got it running at different stages. So this is being able to kind of have that all mapped out in terms of, you do an ad or you do a presentation somewhere maybe, and people say they're interested in receiving some information. Their information goes into the CRM, and then it starts to kind of, trigger all of these things for you. The thing that we like about being able to, progress people through this stage of, are you interested? Do you want a quote? So here's the contract, that type of thing. It allows you to see how many people are progressing through and how many people are not progressing through. So that means that you're starting to understand which communications really resonated with people and what didn't, and starting to kind of see who fell out, who converted and who didn't, so that you are starting to learn it. So this is why sales people particularly like deal stages and pipelines, because with it usually comes a whole heap of reporting to understand better how better to sell. So this might be one of the things that I think, Ingrid, you might benefit from in terms of understanding what really helps convert and nurture a lead for you for one of your Italian tours. Okay, so there's that. And then there's the task management. So task might just be, so if you've got, if you've said a lead comes in and an email has been sent off to someone, and you want to have, you can set a task that says, remind me in 3 days to send another email, or to give them a phone call to see if they're interested in learning more about one of my tours, right? The thing about task management is it can actually have a daily dashboard. So there are some people, they just work purely out of their CRM because all of their contacts are in there, all of the communications with their clients are in there, or their customers, and there's a daily dashboard telling them what do they need to do. These are the people you need to give a phone call to today, or you need to send an email to, or who you need to respond to. So that's what task management is about. It's all in one place, and it's kind of, helping you by reminding you and giving you a kind of a filtered view of what to focus on today. I think this is also another really big boon to CRMs, being easily able to have a library, if you like, or a repository of content and templates. So for you, Ingrid, this might be an information pack, some, detailed FAQ series. It might be about, safety and COVID, or like you might just have a whole lot of information that you kind of drip feed out, or you send at various points when you're starting to sell the next tour, for example. Having these all in a CRM, or easily able to give me this and attach it to this email and then sending it off. It's just, again, about having everything in one place and making it really quick to get it out the door. And if you need to slightly change it, for example. And that might be, thinking about how you might do this from a quoting perspective. When someone's asking for a price, I'm imagining that maybe there is, some people want different things on the tour. Maybe there's a little bit of tailoring or customizing of the tour as you go. Maybe that also helps you to kind of have all of the standard content, but then just slot in something that's unique or different per customer or lead as you go through. And certainly, so we've talked about web forms, right? But this is about capturing data, whether or not that's someone who's interested in the first instance in going to Italy, or maybe custom support form fields might be, for you, Ingrid, that might mean capturing what date or what tour are they interested in. They're interested in going on a tour to Tuscany on this date, right? So that might be part of the form capture piece that you've got, or even part of what you send them back as part of an email. Like you send them an email, thank you so much, we've got these tours going out, let us know which of these you're interested in and I'll send you some information. They click and then that information goes out. Does that make sense? The custom support form fields means that you can tailor to, the dates and to the location that you're going, etc., etc. Okay, so that's theirs. And mobile access. For some people, this is really important, being able to have an app on your phone to be able to access this data rather than always having to be at a desktop to do that. Okay, what else? Integration with marketing automation, right? Integration with, so this is either, the CRM either has this on board, right? Or you're going to integrate with the data into MailChimp, for example. So a lot of people try to do that with HubSpot, but I think HubSpot make it quite difficult to kind of have that external. I think it might have to be on a paid plan. I'm not quite sure, actually. It's quite closed in terms of getting that data out, although you can extract it, so maybe you can. Just needs to be manual. Thing is that, sorry, I digress. Marketing automation is being able to, someone says, I'm interested in going to Tuscany in December next year, and then you send them a sequence of emails or communications, or maybe canned snippets, which is just little paragraphs or slices of information that are specific to them. You want to go to Tuscany in December next year, and you want to stay in premium accommodation instead of standard accommodation. So the standard and premium might be canned snippets that you just kind of nominate or select as part of the communication. So it's just checkbox, checkbox, and then personalized sequence, in each of those, that's what goes out. Does that make sense? Like, it just is. You can either do that on board in the CRM, or maybe you need to integrate with another marketing system to do that. But that's the type of thing that you're trying to do. CRM is generally about really having highly personal communications as part of either a sales or servicing relationship. Okay, and email integration. So I think that email integration is really important in terms of being able to see who has opened up your emails, all of your emails or communications in one place rather than having to scramble. That in itself can be a real time saver, I think. What else? Event and meeting scheduling. Sometimes this is important and sometimes it's not. Ingrid, do you do like showcase nights where people come along to see more about the tour, or do you sometimes meet with them in person? I'm not sure if this is going to be important to you as a business, but for some people, like face-to-face meetings or having a conversation with someone, even if it's via the phone, is kind of an important part of the sales cycle. So you might want to kind of, consider, is this an important part of being able to run an event, for example, Ingrid? You might want to, invite people to come along to a slide night to see and hear more about the tour. And so being able to have that event as part of the CRM, people booking in, and then having emails automatically going out. Thanks for registering, reminder it's coming up this week, reminder it's on today, those types of things. Okay, you do it via phones. Okay. but the meeting scheduling, maybe the phone calls are about scheduling in the call. So you do want to be able to have some kind of scheduling tool there. So that might be important to you. I think I've mentioned before, being able to import and export data is pretty important to understand how that might work. Usually getting data in is not the problem, it's getting the data out that can be more problematic, right? And so that might be, Ingrid, if you're already using MailChimp, it might be that you want to extract that list and import that into your CRM to start using in a different way to be, you know, more tailored and specific. Workflows are what we were talking about before, right? So that's a series of either reminders or sending like little tasks or actions, sending an email, making a phone call, you know, doing some follow-up, those types of things that can, some of them can be set up as automatically sending this out in 3 days or 4 days. Someone comes to an event, for example, and then 3 days later you want to send them an email or remind you need to give these people a phone call to see if they had any questions. I can't service more. I only have about 100 to 200 prospective clients per year. Yeah, okay. But I should imagine if you're on the phone as well, that would make it quite difficult as well. But it could be that you can start to scale a little bit more, you know, just kind of expanding a little bit with your digital footprint as well. Okay, so reminders and tasks, follow-up, revisiting clients. This is where, you know, that workflow can be a real boon. You don't have to keep it all up in your head. You can kind of trust the system to remind you when to be doing things. And then, as I said, billing and invoicing and quoting. So these are two things that I suspect might actually be useful to you, Ingrid, in terms of being able to provide quotes for a tour, but maybe some upsells or upgrades as part of that quote. Like, you know, systems can do that. Tave allows you to do that. And then there's this kind of, you know, idea of being able to send out the invoices, receive payments, and doing it on a payment schedule. So that also might be something that you want to do. Haha. So you asked before around iOS, you're not on a PC with Outlook. Technical things, really looking at third-party integrations. Do you want to be able to integrate this with MailChimp or any other system? And making sure that it's okay for whatever operating system you're on. So if you're on a Mac, you want to make sure that your CRM plays well with a Mac, yeah? And that it doesn't kind of cause you any kind of problems. Most of them are across both platforms. It's really the email client, like either, you know, Outlook or Gmail, that makes the biggest difference. Integrations, I don't know if you're running QuickBooks or Xero or something like that. Maybe you want to use that. Or if you're using something like Tave, you probably don't even need a Xero or a QuickBooks. You can do it all in that one system. So again, it's just like these CRMs are just all so different. Email integrations via Gmail and Office, as I said, particularly if you want to have all your communications in one place, that's really important. And the spam rating, so Ingrid, spam, you've heard about email spam, right? People that just send so many emails that, you know, you're inundated with junk, right? You need to check that your CRM doesn't have a high spam rating. These are questions you have to ask the CRM provider. They don't actually always kind of talk about this stuff, but that is something to just be aware of, that you don't want to be sending so many emails or communications that you get flagged as being spam. And website integration. And what I mean by that is that form, or how else do you want to draw data from people viewing you on your website through to your CRM. Do you have a website? Okay, you are on Xero. Ingrid, do you have a website? Because that might actually, you know, if you don't have a website, maybe some of this stuff isn't as important. But let me just tell you, it could be that the CRM, if you can create forms and things like that, maybe I know businesses that just use a CRM and they don't use a website because they get to do all the interactions are coming through the CRM, but it's different strokes for different folks, right? And customizability, role bases, I don't think is going to be appropriate to you. So that's kind of, you know, someone who does sales versus someone who does marketing and just having two different views. You don't need to worry about that. But the customizability, I think that does matter for you in terms of being able to nominate, you know, different tours, different dates, things like that. And the pricing breaks. So the pricing, what I mean by here is, at what point does the pricing jump from reasonable to not reasonable, right? Because you can see some CRMs, there's huge jumps in costs. So you really want to pay attention to those things. And so this is what I was talking about in terms of, I'm going to send you this spreadsheet, right? But it's got all of these things listed out there for you to go through and say, yes, I need that. No, I don't need that. So that you can kind of then go through and check that off against your whatever CRMs you want to. I've just put some test data in it to see how, you know, so you would label it. But it could be that you might test Pipedrive and Tarbay, for example. And then you give those two a go and you just go through and fill this out. But what I've tried to do is right at the bottom here, actually, let me just bring this spreadsheet up so that you can see. So what I've done right at the bottom is, based on this, you're getting, based on this functionality, you want a yes and a yes to all be equal. But then what you're doing is, based on that, what's the pricing for that functionality that you've got, so that kind of you're working out how to do an apples with apples comparison in terms of pricing, if that makes sense. Okay, so hopefully that kind of will be helpful when that is sent out to you at the end of this thing. So anyway, this is because CRMs are not straightforward, so it does help. These are, so I'm just going to try and explain a little bit more around how you might use a CRM. And for those of you listening to this afterwards, maximizing your CRM, these are the things to be thinking about to get the most out of it. So before you choose your CRM, you need to, I recommend making a list of where are your pain points at the moment. So Ingrid, it might be for you that your pain points are having to make so many phone calls, and you want a way to try and make it easier to do the follow-up, as in sending emails and attaching the right kind of information and making sure that you've got a good system to follow up. I spoke to this person 5 days ago, I want to give them a call. Or maybe I spoke to this person and they said, I can't call today, they want me to call back in 2 days. So you put a reminder in the CRM to tell you to call back in a few days. So you can kind of start to see it's your email plus your diary and your reminder system, plus, you know, your library of brochures and information packs and your quote documents. It can all come together to be much more efficient. But work out what's most painful for you, right? That's something that you probably want to have a think about. And then with that, you then need to think about information flows in terms of lead generation, closing the deal, and post-sales. So this is where it kind of will help you work out what automations or workflows you need and the follow-up activity. Now, Ingrid, what I mean by information flows are, you know, for you, do you have any social media at all, Ingrid? Or maybe it actually is around maybe someone searching for you online. Thing is that it might be for an information flow. Let me just actually look what I've done earlier. On the spreadsheet, I've got a second sheet down here under workflows, so to help you try and work through. And this is what I mean. It could be, for example, that someone fills in a form on your website saying, I'm interested in going to Tuscany in December next year, right? So flow number one might be send them an email saying, thank you very much for reaching out. I've attached some information. I will give you a call in another day, or give you a call shortly. And flow number two might be reminder to call, or call outcome, follow-up discussion or quote, or deep dive Q&As about the tour. And then flow, the third communication might be Reminder, we had this conversation. Did you have any other questions? Would you like to set a time to have a conversation? And then the fourth one might be where you send them perhaps some photographs and some quotes from someone, just reminding them, are you interested? Do you see what I'm saying, Ingrid? Like you kind of, you're outlining, how am I going to talk to this person based on they've indicated that they're interested or they've clicked through and completed a form, for example. So I've just done some things here where that might be, you've got, I'll come back to your question in a minute. So Instagram and Facebook, so you might post some stuff over there and you'll kind of say, anyone that's interested or would like some information on that, please can you go over here or message me, and then, message me with your email address. And so you put them in there and then you send that information and you can kind of start that sequence. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. But this is the idea of, if you sit down and do this work to start with, it makes it really easy then when you start assessing CRMs, not only starting to assess a CRM and make a choice, but then actually start to set it up, because you've already done all of this work, because this is what they ask. This is what you need to do when you start setting up your CRM. Okay, my biggest pain point is feeling disempowered to set this up and feeling confident servicing the CRM. I want to make the phone calls, but I need a task reminder and much more automated email and follow-up invoicing and receipting. Okay, so I reckon, so the reminder, I reckon a CRM is going to help you with this. If you need help getting, there are people out there. I know a woman that I work with. She's a CRM doctor. She either can do the setup for you or she can help you learn how to do this. But I would suggest that if you're not comfortable with technology, then Ingrid, the first steps I would be recommending is firstly really thinking about, now that you've got your pain points, going through this list and kind of maybe doing a bit of an assessment piece. Or if you don't want to do that, right, come and do this. Just work out who are the people, what are the things that I want to sell, as in these tours. Is there differences between the tours, or there may be the same tour just run every year in normal times, of course, or does it matter where they've come from? So, for example, sometimes someone coming in as a referral means that you're going to have a different conversation to someone who's just stumbled across you via some social media sometimes. But kind of working all of that out means that you can then go and have a chat to someone like, say, a CRM doctor or consultant, that can then help you either do a market assessment if you don't want to do it yourself, or they might make a recommendation, use Tarve, it's actually perfect, you've got this date here, they're interested in this, and it all works back from there and there. I suspect that Tarve would be actually quite a good system for you, to be quite honest, knowing its capabilities and what you've just said, which is automated email follow-up, being able to do a form, being able to put people into these sequences based on, Tuscany tour in 2020, 2022, or maybe it's I don't know, northern Italy in June 2022, right? But all of those can kind of go into the system, and you can have your brochures and your information papers and your quotes, and then do the payment system. You could all get that set up, right? I'm not going to be able to kind of go through those details and like step 1, step 2, step 3, but I think I would definitely start with this process here of really understanding, what does this look like? Because you can't, having a conversation with someone, if you're going to get someone in to help you do this, if you haven't thought this through, it's actually really hard to know what it is that you need, which is also kind of part of just coming through and doing this. It means that they're going to ask you all of these questions, and if you haven't done this work, they might send you away saying, go away and work this out to start with. It's kind of, these are the fundamentals, but this is also how you get the most out of a CRM, for example. Because I'm going to say, Ingrid, because the other thing that I would be considering for you is after the tour, what happens? How do you keep contact with people? How do you ask people for reviews and referrals? Those types of things. How do you suggest, they went on this tour 3 years ago, do they want to do the next version of this tour? You know, they did Tuscany previously 3 years ago. Now they, you know, would they be interested in Northern Italy? They already know me. You know, like those are the types of things that you can then use that CRM for as you mature with it. And certainly you can kind of, you know, use this flow. Maybe flow is the wrong word here. I think of them as flows, but maybe it's touch point number 1, touch point number 2. You know, first one might be website form. Second one might be email. Third one might be phone call. Third might be another email. See where I'm going? Like how you kind of would start to do those. Okay, right. So these are, so really understanding those information flows. So that's what we've just had a look at there. Does that make sense, Ingrid? Based on what we're talking about, I'm going to say I reckon you should be looking at Carve. By the way, I've just put the URL there. List any, and so having done that, that's where you would then list any tools or integrations that you're after. So for example, let's just say you're using Tarve. I can't think of anything actually. Why? I can't think. You might want to integrate with Xero. You can't integrate with Xero on Tarve, but for example, Pipedrive, it's really easy to integrate with Xero. But those are the things that you might want to kind of work out. Could be that you don't need Xero if you're going to use Tarve because you can do all your invoicing in there. Okay. So sometimes a CRM will actually save you money if you get it right, but not always. It's different strokes for different folks. And then, of course, you need to have your documents. And I'm going to suggest probably, Ingrid, that this is something that you already have. You probably have a lot of these emails and information packs and brochures already available, and you just need to kind of transfer them, get them set up in the CRM, or get someone to help you get it set up. But certainly the thing that I talk about that I think is really important here is really check that it is a repeatable process, because if you're having to change and tailor the bulk of stuff, it's not really saving you time. Perhaps a CRM is actually not what you're after. It might need another different system to help you achieve these things. Okay, right. And start simple and learn about your customer as you go rather than fully resolve the solution up front. So what I mean by that, you've started with your flows. So remember what you said, Ingrid. You said, oh, you weren't quite sure what gets traction, what's not, and you kind of struggle a little bit. The thing is that a CRM, based on different communications, if you see something that kind of gets a better response rate, then you can start to, if something doesn't work and you're not getting any response from people, perhaps in your brochureware or the first email or the follow-up, maybe you change that and you keep iterating it until you start to get traction. A CRM is really good to be able to really get that the minutiae, like the really detailed feedback, to help you understand how better to sell your product, because you are selling a product at that price point where you are actually having to market and sell, right? So marketing and selling are kind of two different things, but you need to be doing a hybrid of it, which is a bit of marketing to get people's attention in the first instance, and then you have to go into selling mode where you start to have these one-on-one conversations and starting to nurture a relationship with these people in order to kind of commit to you. I'm hoping that has been helpful. That's actually the last slide I have. So I'm wondering, Ingrid, out of all of that, I know that you've kind of saying you're feeling a bit disempowered to how to set this up, because it is, I get it. It's not a simple way forward. It could be that for you, you start with a spreadsheet as part of doing this. Is that how you're doing it at the moment, with spreadsheet? I'm not quite sure how you might be doing it at the moment, but I can either put you in contact with the CRM doctor. If you want to have a chat to her, you could just Google CRM specialist. Or the other thing is, every single one of these CRMs, they all offer free trials, and a lot of them offer a lot of help to be able to on board with this, like answering questions and things like that. So there are kind of options to either figure it out for yourself or to kind of buy in that expertise to help you get this set up and, you know, operating so that it feels like you haven't had to kind of spend 6 months in a dark room trying to work out a system, if that makes sense. A bit of everything. Yeah, okay. Any other questions, Ingrid, that I could help you with before we finish up? Anything you want me to go back over or kind of explore a little bit more? No? Okay. All right. Then I will thank you very much for coming along. I'm disappointed we lost Mick, but what we'll do is Francisco will be sending out the slide pack. Hang on, Ingrid, I'll give you the CRM. Hang on, I'm just going to give you this is the person that I know, and I think she does a really good job. And I'm just going to paste this in the chat for you here. This is the person. She doesn't even have a website. She just does everything through a CRM, but she's got a really good reputation. She services clients all over the world. She's really big in the event industry, like for weddings and things like that. So she helps a lot of people in that industry. I think she does a really good job. I've just put the URL there. It's got her contact details on that page for you if you think that might be worthwhile having a chat. I think she's really good. But you can tell a CRM is actually quite complex. So if you're going to go into it with eyes wide open and ask all of the right questions and explore it before committing, because it's a lot of time and effort to get it up and running. Or if you have to pay someone, it can be quite a bit of an effort too. But I think that, you know, she does do one-off consultations for you to kind of ask lots of questions and kind of explore how Tarde could be used for you. Okay, good luck, Ingrid. I really hope that it goes well for you. And for anyone else that kind of dials in afterwards, best of luck. I hope that the spreadsheet that we put together for you as well is super helpful, just to kind of work through all of those things and really think about, you know, it's not just about one single thing that you can be doing with a CRM. It's about pulling it all together and using it in lots of different ways. Okay, best of luck, everyone. I'll speak to you later. Bye.